Hey guys, so Dr. C here. So we're gonna start the first part of our procedure. So today we're doing the mass, volume, and density lab. And we're gonna start off with the density of a liquid. So we're gonna start with procedure 1. And when I'm doing this, I might be a little shaky because it's really cold in here. And it's actually like fogging up my goggles. So you're lucky that you could be in a blanket in your house right now. All right, so the first part says to clean and dry a 250 ml volumetric flask. So this is a volumetric flask. It's got a little line here, and so you might have remembered this from your equipment list that we gave you. And so a volumetric flask can only do one volume. So it can do 25 mils and that's it. It can't do 10 or 15 or anything. It's 25 or none, okay? So it's already clean, it's already dry. So it says weigh the empty volumetric flask and record the mass of the flask in your data table. So at the bottom here, we're doing water first. So we're gonna get the mass of our empty flask for M1. So it's already at 0. So all I need to do is put my volumetric flask on there. All right. And so you've got your volumetric flask, you've got it weighed out. So then it says take the flask and fill it to the mark with distilled water. So I need some water. So got a beaker here, just get some water. It says distilled water, so this will be fine. So some water, and we're gonna pour it in. So I could probably pour this in straight up like this, but you know, maybe we should use a funnel. And so let's see if I got a handy funnel. I don't, I do, I lied, I have a funnel. If not, I know where another one's at. So pour it in. We're gonna go slow at first, and then I'll use the pipette to kind of go so I don't go over it. But if you go over it, you can always pour some out. Whoop, see, I went over it. It's okay, it happens. So since it's water, I can just pour it back in here. If it were something else besides water, you wouldn't want to pour it back into your reagent bottle. Remember, that was one of our safety rules. But it's just water, and I'm just gonna dump that back out anyway. So now I'll grab my pipette so I could go a little bit slower and get closer to that line. So remember, we want the meniscus to be at the bottom of the line. I'm gonna need a little bit more. All right. Whenever you're reading these, you kind of want to get down and get eye level so you can see it. Sometimes you might get a little air bubble. So you can kind of tap it. Don't tap it too much because it is glass, so you got to be a little gentle. And then you just fill it up. All right, cool. So we got 25 mils in our volumetric flask. So now it says, make sure the outside is dry. And then we're gonna weigh the filled flask. So make sure it's dry. Just get some paper towel, dry it all off. Okay. And then we'll weigh it filled. All right. So then it says to write down your full flask volume. So now you have the mass of the filled. And then it says the difference between the mass of the filled and the empty will be the mass of the fluid. You should know what the volume is because we already kind of talked about that. And then you can calculate the density. Before we're done with the water though, it says to empty the distilled water from the flask into a 50 ml beaker. So I got my beaker. And we're gonna dump our water into, sometimes you have to tap it because it gets all grabby. It's all suctioned in there from the pressure. Okay. So now it's in our in our 50 ml beaker, and we want to record the temperature. So I'm gonna let this sit, and while it's kind of acclimating to the temperature and recording it, you might be like, why are we getting the temperature? So remember Dr. Hines in his introduction video made a comment about how density is a constant, but it's a constant dependent on temperature. So depending on if it's a solid, liquid, or gas, if it's the temperature changes, its volume will change. So we have to record the density based on the temperature. So we want to get our temperature volume, our measurement. Okay. So now that you have the temperature measurement, you're going to write that down on your data sheet. And then you want to find the accepted value. So now you just found your measured value. To find the accepted value, you want to get the density of water from your reference table. And so that was provided to you with your stuff on Miles Must Say. So you want to go onto that table, find the temperature that matches, and that's going to be your expected value, your accepted value. Sorry. So once you have that, then you can calculate your percent error for your water. So now you can move on to the next part, your unknown, and see if you can figure out the density of an unknown liquid. Now that I showed you how to do it with something you already know.